Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. For those of you that follow this genre, stories about the penitentiary, you might have heard that Thompson, Illinois, the SMOOTH program has been shut down. Well, last week I was able to watch a YouTube. It was by Forbes Breaking News, and they had a Senate Judiciary hearing where they summoned the Director of the Bureau of Prison, Kalita Peters, to come and testify on the atrocity that's been going on in the penitentiary. Through the course of these videos, I've shared stories with you guys of the level of violence and craziness that goes on. And some of it is hard to believe because, it's almost incomprehensible that we can do this to each other. I always mention in there that we're behind enemy lines because of all the racial tension and all the different rival gangs that are forced to be housed in the same penitentiary that has an unsteady truth that can blow up at any time. But a lot of the atrocities that I haven't shared with you is because I don't really have firsthand knowledge of stuff that has to do with staff. But, on Thompson, this is from the horse's mouth from the Senate Judiciary hearing that was broadcast on September 13th, 2023. Not only do we have to watch our back amongst other inmates, part of the violence is the staff inflicted on inmates. In Thompson, they have a new terminology right now called a Thompson tattoo. The Thompson tattoo was described to me by the Senate was inmates being put in restraints that are so tight for so long of a period that it left a permanent scar. I went to the SMOOTH program in Lewisburg, and they have since shut down Lewisburg because of all the craziness that was going on over there. But their bright idea was to shut down one SMOOTH program and then open up another one, thinking that it's going to be something different. When I was in the SHU in Atwater waiting to the SMOOTH program, I met a native dude who was already 9 months removed from the program. We was in a rec cage together out of rec, during our hour out. And I'm on my way to the SMOOTH program, so of course, I'm going to inquire and ask him about, what to expect. Because even though I've done already up to this time about 17 years, 18 years already, each penitentiary has their own politics. Each penitentiary has their own level of craziness and violence. So even though I'm comfortable in my own skin and my own ability to protect myself, I'm always apprehensive when I go into a new penitentiary because, one, I have no idea who's there or what to expect. Well, during the course of my conversation, the native bro lifted up his shirt and showed me his stomach. And again, he's already been 9 months removed from the SMOOTH program. But while he was in the SMOOTH program, he was belly chained by the staff for whatever incident he got into. And he was left in his restraints for over 72 hours. His restraints were so tight that it blistered up his stomach and it got gangrene and infected. Well, when he healed up, again, 9 months removed, you can still see each chain link imprinted across his stomach where the belly chain was at. Well, now in Thompson, I guess it's become a normal practice for the staff over there to do that to people, to put them in restraints that are so tight, handcuffs, shackles, that is leaving a permanent scar and has been dubbed the Thompson tattoo. You know, the stories I share with you are from the men's penitentiary, because that's the experience that I know. That's the stories that I know. That's the stories that I've lived. But the women's penitentiary are just as bad. Maybe not so much as inmate on inmate crimes, but over 2/3 of the women's facilities have what they call PREA. PREA is a Prison Rape Elimination Act. Been incidents where over 2/3 of the women's penitentiaries has had females in there that's been assaulted, sexually assaulted by staff, that been impregnated by staff. Now, for those of you that have sisters or mom or cousins that are female that are in the penitentiary, understand that they're not any safer than the guys in the USP. And, you know, it's hard for me to wrap around my head on how these dudes that become COs get to a point where they look at us like we're no longer human, that they can abuse us and mistreat us. And then when you find an incident where a staff member got killed or got assaulted or got stabbed up, they're looking at the inmate like we're the bad guy. But how much abuse had these inmates suffered from this particular individual before it got to that point? Because, you know, me doing 26 years, I don't wake up angry and mad and looking for a CO to punish. I'm just trying to figure out how to do my time, how to get from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock before they rack our door without, you know, getting stabbed up. But through the course of our time, you have COs that come to work that somehow feel like their badge and their uniform is a green light to say and do whatever the fuck they want. And then when we get fed up for it, we punish them, we get charged and convicted. You know, I've shared with you, I got 96 months for knocking out a CO. But I didn't wake up one morning and decide to go knock this dude out and punish him. No, there has been things that transpired leading up to it where I was just fed up. Like, who wants to catch more time in the penitentiary if they don't have to? You know, that's why I say a lot of these staff members, you know, their courage and their heart is on loan by the federal government. They got to check that shit in every time they go home. They're probably a bunch of fucking do-boys on the streets, but when they come into the penitentiary, they know they're protected by the government, that if something happens to them, if an inmate puts their hands on them, they're going to be in the courtroom testifying. And the first thing that's going to ever come out of their mouth every single time, and this is from my firsthand experience, is they're going to always say, "Oh, I was just doing your job." Well, your job don't have anything to do with you disrespecting me. Your job doesn't have anything to do when I'm already restrained and handcuffed for you to punish me. You know, I shared with you when I was in Lewisburg, they had a kid next door to me. I mean, he wasn't a kid. A guy next door to me, a Mexican dude, that set his cell on fire. Well, when they came and extracted him out of the cell, they placed him in the shower, handcuffed behind his back. Now, everything in the Smooth program, when you go get your hair cut, when you go to the shower, you're just in a case the size of a phone booth, just enough for you to stand up in. Well, after they extract him out of the cell, they place him in the shower. And then the police, the COs, took turn just punching him in the face. You know, at this time, I had to go to the dry cell because my cellie had spazzed out, you know, on some Tucci. So I was in a dry cell for 3 days. When I came back, my cell is right next to him. I'm standing in the door waiting to go in the cell, and the Mexican dude is hollering at me like, "Hey, what's up, Mesa?" And I look at him, and I don't recognize him because he looked like the Elephant Man. Like he got, like both his eyes were closed to a slit. It was all bruised. It was busted up. And I'm looking, I'm like, what the fuck, right? So after they put me in the cell, we can talk through the vent. And that's when he told me that they had put him in the shower and about 4 or 5 COs just took turn punching him in the face. You know, these COs, these staff, these administration, they know about all these different incidents, but they have a good old boy network that they all protect each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. But where my grievance is, you're there for a job. You're getting paid to secure the prison, to intervene and protect inmates or whatever. Like you're supposed to be professional at your job. But so often you have these dudes that work in the penitentiary that, you know, come together like their own little gang and are getting off on punishing dudes. Like, I don't have an issue if you want to go head up or you want to, you know, whatever. But there's nothing that I can do when I'm shackled and belly chained already. You know, like the homie Easy, when he punished the police, Moreno, for being a little bitch. When they took him back to the SHU, they had him in the shower, and these cowards, 3 of them, took turn punching him in the back of the head. You know, when I was restrained, when they came and extracted me out of my cell, I'm already hogtied. My legs are shackled. My hands are cuffed behind my back. I'm on my belly with the CO sitting on top of my back. And while he's on top of my back, he's kneeing the back of my head. You know, he's kneeing the back of my head and my forehead is hitting the shower. I'm being ping pong between his knee and the freaking shower in the back of the cell. You know, the first few, I'm like, okay, I probably deserve that. But then it got excessive. But, you know, I was never able to identify the CO because, one, they already shot 2 cans of freaking OC at me. And this shit that they spray into the cell, when it hits the wall and the ceiling, it turns it orange. And after a few minutes, it eats up the paint. You can see the bubbles on the ceiling from the chemical. So imagine what that's doing to your lungs. But again, you know, when I was watching the Senate Judiciary hearing about this new director of Bureau of Prison, this female, Kalita Peters, they're bringing up other things that I didn't even know about. If you have a female friend, family member that are in the penitentiary, you need to understand they're putting biological male in these prisons too. Now, I know the transgender issue out here is a hot topic, but I'm just gonna insert some common sense into the conversation. No matter how you feel about the topic, men and women are not equal as far as our physical makeup. We have more muscle mass, we're a lot stronger, and these aren't just some dude off the street. These are hardened criminals. They're in there for assault, sexual assault, murder, and down the list. But now I guess during the Obama administration, I experienced this when I was going to the SMOOD. When I was going into the SMOOD and they were doing an interview with me, they were asking me, what I identify as. And, I'm clueless to this shit because I don't know nothing about, we don't have YouTube, in prison. So I have no idea all the craziness that's been going on out here in the street. So when they ask me, like, what do I identify as, I was confused, like really confused. But they took that as like, I'm just trying to be funny or trying to be a dick. When they asked me my gender, again, I'm like, what? I mean, I don't look like a dude, and I've been in custody for 20 years in a male's penitentiary. That would automatically say that I'm male. You have my PSI, the pre-sentencing report. You have everything to identify who I am, but yet you're asking me, what my gender is. And again, I have no idea about any of this stuff until I was exposed to it. Let me read to you what the BOP identifies gender now. It says gender, a construct to clarify a person as male, female, both, or neither. Gender encompasses aspects of social identity and social behavior. So they're disregarding your biological makeup. They're disregarding your DNA, and they're disregarding the Y chromosome that separates us from male and female. Again, I'm not trying to get into all the social aspect of it because I don't really care what you want to do with your life, what you want to be. That's your prerogative. But for those people that have family members that are female, that are being housed in female prison, understand the risk that your family member are in when they put a biological male in there. Now, these dudes that go into that go and tells the staff, the administration that they're a girl stuck in a guy's body and gets transferred into these penitentiary, they don't have to have their weenie cut off before they get over there. And again, these dudes are criminals. Like, my videos and stuff, it's about redemption. It's about people like me that's done time and are not the same individuals as they were 20, 30 years ago when they caught their case, that we evolve and become better person and learn how to be a man throughout the penitentiary system. But I'm not making excuses or trying to soften that we're not violent or even decent individuals, because there's still some people in there, and it's sad for me to say that, probably should never be allowed back out on the street just because they don't have no desire to change, just because they relish in the chaos and the violence. So now you have dudes in there that have a life sentence or however many time, but know that they can get transferred to a female prison so they can have a better time of it. There's been incidents where female inmates are being raped by these so-called transgender in the penitentiary. And this is where I get upset. A couple weeks ago, I buried my friend, Paul Amma. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Well, before stage 4, there's a stage 1, a stage 2, and a stage 3. But while he was incarcerated in a penitentiary, they didn't want to spend the money to help him because they know he was getting released. So here's something they could have done to save my friend's life, to catch the cancer before it became stage 4. And they didn't want to do anything about it because they didn't want to spend the money to save him. But yet, if somebody goes in there and tells them, hey, I'm a woman trapped in a guy's body, they'll put them on hormones. They'll give them their own commissary list where they can get shampoos and bras and all the rest of that shit. And now, even further, they're willing to transfer them to a female penitentiary. You know, I just want to emphasize to you guys that we're not just sitting there watching TV, twiddling our thumbs, playing video games, and watching the clouds, you know, take different shapes and forms in the sky. When I tell you we're behind enemy lines, we are behind enemy lines. And that's not just the different rival gangs and the racial tension. We're behind enemy lines because these staff members don't see us as human beings. And you know, when a staff member abuses the inmates, they don't get fired. They get if they don't want them to be in that penitentiary no more, they transfer them. But the only way they transfer them is by promoting them. So you got a lot of these piece of shit COs that's been going around doing outrageous shit, and they're getting transferred to different penitentiaries, but each time they're getting promoted, so they end up becoming lieutenants and senior staff and all that shit. Like, and the reason why is that the union protects them. You know, I have friends that work in the union out here, that work in constructions, that work in different aspects of the economy. And I know the benefits of the union. But the union for the COs, for the corrections officers, when a person gets hired and come to the penitentiary, they have like a 6 months, maybe a year probation period. But after they pass that period, it's almost impossible for them to get fired after that. They would have to catch a new case. You know, they could beat up an inmate to the point of almost death. But as long as that guy doesn't die and it doesn't get put out there, they're just gonna sweep it under the rug. Like I told you, my friend Larry, who assaulted a staff in Victorville when I was there, he got sent to ADX for 3 months. You know, this is coming from him. This is him telling me and Bryson for 3 months. They had him 4-pointed. 4-point is a slab that's the shape of a bunk on the ground. And they got handcuffs on all 4 points to cuff your hands and cuff your feet. For 3 months, they came in there every day and beat his ass. They wrapped their baton with some type of foam so that it wouldn't leave too much bruise on his body. And this dude's a hardened criminal. This dude's been in the penitentiary 30 years already. Been in incidents, stabbings, and all the rest. And he looked at Bryson in the eye and said, hey, bro, if they told me to tell on my mama, bro, I would have told my mom. They were beating him to the point where he was crying for his mom repeatedly. And this is acceptable to the administration. But touching on another subject, the First Step Act. The First Step Act has helped to release a lot of people that had life sentences that shouldn't have got, but they're not knocking people's time down and letting them go. They're just correcting the atrocity of the sentencing at the time when they went to court. Because, they have a thing that they stack. Like, say, right now, or back then, I get caught with 3 guns. Instead of charging me with a gun being one incident, they were giving me 5 years for the first gun, 10 years for the second gun, and 30 years for the third gun. So I'm coming out of there with 55-year sentence, which is a misjustice and a misuse of their statute. But the First Step Act corrected that. So a lot of people that got life sentences or 100 years got their time knocked down to 25, 30, and so on and so forth, and are able to allow people to come home. Well, under the CARES Act, they released a lot of people to home confinement because of whatever illness that they have or whatever that the BOP really don't want to spend the money to take care of. So they allow these people to go home and be on home confinement. They released 13 inmates into home confinement. And these 13 inmates that are on home confinement, less than half, maybe even less than, I'm not sure if I got the numbers right, 40% of them, violated or whatever and got sent back to the penitentiary. But the remainder, 60-something%, are doing good. But this Senator Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee, is insisting that the BOP return them back to prison. She's not even taking into account that these people that's been released on home confinement has changed their lives and are doing good and are being a productive citizen in their community. I don't know exactly what all of them are doing with their lives, but they're not committing any crimes and they haven't violated the condition of their home confinement. But the Senator Blackburn is insisting that the BOP return them back to prison for the remainder of their sentence. The whole justice system is punitive. There's no rehabilitation. There's no second chance. They're not. Once you catch a case and in their system, that stigma that you're a criminal is on you forever. And that's all they see. They don't want any leeway. Just look how long it took for them to even correct the sentencing. I've been in the system since 95. I went to the prison on this bid, December, I got caught on this bid in December 15th of 1998. And I've been incarcerated all the way to August 10th, 2022. Almost 24 years of my life. 23 years and 8 months to be exact. And that's not even enough for them. I should have been home a year earlier at the minimum for my halfway house. And the halfway house is established to reintegrate you back into society. Like people that come from, locked down, it's a culture shock to just enter the world. Because, while you're in the penitentiary, your sights and your senses are exposed to the same thing over and over again, which is minimal. All the colors in the penitentiary are bland or pale, and they do that for a reason. Like everything that's built in the penitentiary has its purposes. They don't give you any bright colors because I guess through research or whatever, bright colors incites certain type of emotions and behavior. So everything you see is all like pale colors. And you're exposed to the same environment over and over again for 2+ decades. So from there, you have to be able to be placed in a transition period, which is the halfway house. They deem that you need that to help you successfully integrate back into society. But when it was time for me to come to the halfway house, somehow the BOP allowed the halfway house to refuse me. So I ended up staying a year extra and not being able to have that transition period, which is crucial to my success out here. Because now I'm just thrown into the world and I have to absorb all these things that's coming at me all at once. And for me personally, I'm not a very animated individual when it comes to my emotions and things like that. Now you guys see me, tear up here and stuff when I talk about certain things, but through the course of my everyday life, I'm very mild-mannered, very level, regardless of what's going on, So, absorbing all these things, having all my senses attacked with all these different visuals and sounds and stuff. There's times like now, my wife just went on vacation to Vegas for her sister's birthday for, 3-4 days. The whole time I stayed home. The only time I left to the house was to go to work. After that, I stayed home with my doggies. And I've read comments about individuals that has been home, years already. And they still are more comfortable just being in the room and away from people. And, at first, I didn't understand it. Like, how can you not just adjust to the environment? But being here, going over a little bit over a year now, I fully understand, and I want to apologize to those individuals. Not that I didn't understand, but it was just I didn't experience, or I thought I didn't experience that myself. But yeah, being locked up 2+ decades and then just being thrown into the world shocks your senses. And in these First Step Act, they're supposed to provide you with programs and stuff that helps you integrate back into society. But from firsthand experience, I'm going to tell you, the highest level of education they have is a GED. Everything else they're teaching you is how to crochet or how to bead, some drawing. I've been into a couple facilities where they had leather work, where, it's actual work that you can make, wallets and backpacks and stuff that people can really take these skills and apply them and make money out here in the world. What they don't understand, the programs that we need, is job training. Because when you come home and you're not able to get a job, it's frustrating. If you're not able to take care of yourself financially, that's what leads back to crime. Not all this fucking drug, alcohol, anger management, fucking do-boy fucking programs that doesn't teach you a fucking thing, because I've taken them all. I've taken them all for the purpose of being able to show my judge that, hey, I'm participating in classes and programs. But none of these classes and programs that I've taken has helped me in any way, shape, or form to make a living out here. And that's what these people, the Senates, the Bureau of Prison, need to understand. If you really want to help inmates to integrate and be successful back in society, have programs that teach them skills so they can take care of themselves financially. I just wanted to share with you today, the hearing that I watched over and over again, just to try to get the psyche of these people that work in the system. And at the end of the day, after the hearing was over, the impression I got was it's going to be the same thing that's been going on. Every question that the Senate asked her, she gave a vague answer. Oh, we're consulting with these people. Oh, we're looking into this. Oh, we're considering this, considering that. But there was no actual plan on how to change the culture. And one of culture that is so outlandish. It's just like the cops out here in the streets, man. There's no accountability. They go there, you call them to address a mental health issue with a young kid. The scary ass cowards go over there, fire 11 rounds on them. You know, so many instances where these police go and end up killing these family members that they were called to help, and yet they're not being prosecuted, they're not being held accountable. And again, it goes back to the very, very powerful union that all these law enforcement and these correctional officers are a part of. And until they correct that, until they insist on accountability on these mistreatment of citizens and inmates alike, it's just going to be the same old shit over and over again. So, again, if you guys like these content, you know, we mentioned that you guys wonder why my subscribership is not at 100,000. And I don't know why. I really do feel like there's a partial shadow ban on my content because I speak out against the system, because I'm exposing the system, let you guys know that we're not in there just watching TV and twiddling our thumb of all the atrocities that goes on in there that are perpetrated by not just inmates, but by staff. You know, I don't know how to get my algorithm out or anything. I've taken some of the advice that people have left on the comment, but the one sure thing that we can do to help boost the subscribership is I would ask you guys that watch this content, that love this content, to share it with a friend, to share it with somebody that might want to hear this, that might need to hear this. And I think that if we all just share it with a couple people, a couple family members, a couple of friends, we could probably double the subscribership within the next week. I mean, I'm sure you guys can find one person to subscribe. So I ask all of you guys, all your viewers, to help me out. And I'm so much appreciated for all the love that you've given me. Thank you. Welcome to the USP.